Commercialization of agriculture and cultivation. The term commercialization means production of something for sale in the market. So, what does the term commercialization means? It means that whatever the crops will be produced, that will be produced so that they can sell in the market. This process is known as commercialization. Commercialization of agriculture simply means that a peasant grow more than he or his family can consume and he sell the rest in the market. So generally we can define the term commercialization as, that means a peasant grow a certain amount of crop, that means rice. Okay, he had grown maybe 10 quintal of rice. Okay, and and his family and he consume maybe 5 quintal of rice. Okay, so 5 quintal is extra, so what he will do, he will sell in the market. So this process is known as commercialization. It usually happens in an economy where the land revenue demand is in cash and not as a part of the produce. So this system can only be occurred when there is demand in the market in the form of cash. Okay, in India, after the various land revenue settlement were put in place, the commercialization of agriculture took place. So as we have already discussed about the three main land revenue settlement which were implemented in India, due to this there was a practice of commercialization of agriculture started taking place in India. All the three land revenue settlement that we read about earlier were based on cash payment. So whatever the we have discussed about the three land revenue settlement, right? So they were based on the cash payment. That means they have to pay the revenue or taxes in the cash, not on the no, not for example, they cannot pay the revenue in the form of crops, for example by giving rice, dal and so on. So the zamindar, lumbardar or the riot had to make enough provisions for cash by selling a part of the produce in the market to be able to pay cash revenue. So what did the zamindar, lumbardar and riot do? They take the 1/3 or 2/3 of the production which were cultivated by the peasant, right? So they go in the market, they sell the crops, and they once they sell the crops, they have enough money, and that money they give to the British government as a land revenue from the peasant. Secondly, as a direct result of the land revenue settlement, there was also a rapid commercialization of land. So there was not only the commercialization of crops, but there was also the rapidly increasing the commercialization of the land also. That means this means that the right to own land did not depend on birthright or any other traditional right, but on the ability to pay revenue on time. So as the commercialization of land started in India, okay, so it was not at all you can say compulsory that a person who has land, they can pay the, or they can pay the tax, right? So it is totally up to the farmers what kind of crops they produce, how they produce, and if they were able to pay the revenue, that means the taxes, on the time or not. So according to these factors, peasants were allotted the land. For example, if a farmer is able to pay the revenue on time every month to the British rule, they were allotted a certain amount of land so that they can cultivate or they can do agriculture, and they can repay the, or you can say they can pay the revenue to the British. So on this basis, the land was allotted to the peasant, not on the birthright. In case of default, the land would be put up for auction. So if there is default, that means the peasants is not able to pay the revenue, their land will be seized and they will be put for auction. That means they will sell in the market. This was a fundamental change in the previous land system that existed in India, leading to much disruption in rural society. So as their lands were sold in the market, this was you can say very you can say it was a very cruel practice which were adopted by the British rule, and hence the farmers they have to face a lot of problems, especially in the rural societies, that means the village areas. The third change was brought about in the rural areas by the forced cultivation of some commercial crops, sometimes referred to as plantation crops. So the third changes which were brought after the uh, land revenue settlement was that the peasants were forced to cultivate the some of the important commercial crops, and or rather we can say these commercial crops as a plantation crops. Peasants were forced to cultivate high value commercial crops. So the peasants were forced to cultivate the commercial crops which can earn as much of profit to the British government. These crops were not needed locally and were meant only for export. So why these uh, crops were used for, or you can say why these crops were, you can say why the Britishers had forced to cultivate these crops, because these crops were not used locally. That means the local people does not use these crops. They were used, or they were produced only to export to the other country. In the first phase of the colonial rule, opium and indigo were the main commercial crop. Opium means drugs, you can say ganja in the local language, okay, and indigo means neem. So these were the two important commercial crops which the British government had forced to the peasant to cultivate in the first phase of the colonial rule. Opium was cultivated in Western India. Okay, so the opium was cultivated in the Western India, that means especially in the Gujarat, Rajasthan, and so on side, and exported to China in exchange of Chinese tea. So they, whatever the crops whatever the amount of opium were produced in the Western India, they were exported to China, and instead of supplying them opium, they exchanged it with the Chinese tea. Indigo was cultivated mainly in Bengal provinces and exported to Britain and Europe, helping the company make huge profit. So indigo were cultivated in the Bengal area, and they were exported to Britain and Europe, and with this they have earned a huge amount of profit. America was the only other country that produced indigo in large quantity. So, and America was the only other country. That means earlier there was only America who used to cultivate the indigo in a large quantity. Now the Britishers they have forced to Indian people to cultivate indigo. That's why the demand of indigo was very high. However, after America became independent in 1776, supplies to Britain stopped. So, uh, so especially in the year 1776, when America became independent, they stopped to supply the indigo to the Britain. So the company turned to its newly occupied colony of Bengal to ensure supplies of indigo. So this was the main reason why the Britishers they have forced to Indian peasant to cultivate the indigo, because earlier they used to get the indigo from the America, but America when they have got independent in the year 1776, so they stopped supplying the indigo to the Britain. So that's why they forced the Indian farmers to produce the indigo in the Bengal provinces, and with this they have earned the huge profit. From the middle of the 19th century, however, the demand for new types of commercial crops rose. So, especially in the middle of the 19th century, the demand for new types of commercial crop roses. That means it increases. Jute, cotton, and rubber were now needed from India to meet the needs of the industrial revolution in England. So, the Indian farmers were forced to cultivate the jute, cotton, and rubber so that they can meet the needs of the industrial revolution which were taken place in England. There were two important results of cultivation of commercial crops on Bison. So, you can say the Britishers were forcing the Indian people to cultivate the commercial crop, there were two results of this cultivation. First was, since these were sold in international market, their demand fluctuated widely. So as these crops were, you can say, sold only at the international level, so their demand fluctuated. For example, in the month of January, the demand is very high, so they were pressurizing the farmers to produce the commercial crop, maybe indigo, in a large quantity. Similarly, in the month of, you can say, April, the demand is very low, so they were not forced at all. While in the good years, it benefited the peasant to some extent. Okay, so when there is high demand, it not only benefit the British government but also the farmers also. And in the bad years the peasants suffered very badly. So if there is no demand, the company cannot earn profit, and if the company cannot earn profit, the farmers, they do not get their share. So that's why the peasants also suffered when there is less demand. In the absence of cash from the cash crops, and because of the fact that much of the land was set aside for non-food crops, the peasant did not have enough to eat. So as there was, you can say, absence of cash for cash crop, that means as they were not given, you can say, money to do agriculture, as the policy of British was that when they will get the profit, then only they will give the share to the peasants, right? So in order to cultivate, the peasants need money, right, to bring the seeds, to bring the different types of manures, water. They need money, right? So it was totally dependent upon the British that if they will earn huge amount of profit, then only the farmers will get their share. So due to which the farmers, they don't have enough to eat, because they don't have much, you can say, amount of money to purchase items from the market. So that's why the farmers were suffered a lot. Famine therefore became a standing features of the Indian subcontinent. So again there was another factor, that is famine, shortage, as there was crop failure due to lack of rainfall or some other reason, due to which the farmers, they have suffered a lot. So if the colonial rule began with the Bengal famine in 1770, it also added with the Bengal famine in 1943. So in the year, we have already learned, in the year 1770 there was a famine. Again it added, again same famine was occurred in Bengal in the year 1943. Many peasants rebelled against such oppressive practice. So many peasants, they revolted against the colonial rule. Why? Because they were forcing the Indian people or Indian farmers to cultivate the commercial crops, due to which the farmers were suffered a lot. We will study one such revolt. Now we will study one such revolt, that is Indigo revolt or the Nil Bidroho. Okay, indigo. Now we will know. Now we will learn what is indigo. Okay, indigo is a dye. It was a major item of international trade from the 16th to the late 19th century. So it is a kind of dye. As you can see in this picture, an indigo plant, cakes produced from it, and yarn dyed and with its typical blue color. So indigo is a you can say a plant through which they extract the typical blue color which you use in your white shirt. Okay, so although it has other uses apart from dyeing, mainly medicinal use, it useful as a dye was the main factor in indigo cultivation. So that's why the indigo was demanded. The trade of indigo from Asia was controlled by the Portuguese in the middle of the 16th century. So in the middle of the 16th century, the trade of indigo from the Asia, that means from the Indian subcontinent, it was controlled by the Portuguese. Okay, the Spanish established hundreds of commercial indigo establishments in their colonies in North America. So the Spanish also, they have established different types of commercial indigo establishment in the North America. In the 17th and 17th and 18th century, Central America indigo became a very successful product. So in the 17th and 18th century, the Central American indigo, they have become very successful product. Why? Because there was a huge demand in the America. In their Caribbean and North American colonies, the French and British shut up successful indigo industries. The Dutch set up their indigo industries in Java. So the French and British, they also set up their indigo industries successfully, and similarly the Dutch, they have also established their indigo industries in Java. In the beginning of the 19th century, the Central American indigo trade collapsed because of a war between England and Spain. So in the beginning of the 19th century, the Central America indigo, it collapsed. That means it destroyed. How? Because there was a war between England and Spain. After the American Revolution, the British lost their control over North American indigo. So after the American Revolution, which was taken from between the England and Spain, the British lost their control over the North American indigo. Thus, there was a crisis in the global indigo market. So, as they lost their control over North American indigo, so there was a shortage of indigo in the international market.